Most people would be surprised to know that I went through a serious phase in my 20s where I was painfully shy. Friends from high school and college had moved on. My family worked long hours. I worked as an administrative assistant in the finance department of a large corporation. I didn't have a lot of opportunities to meet people, so I played softball, I acted in community theater, I even sang in a gospel choir. But I was always disappointed when the conversations and relationships ended when the activities did as well. Conversations started to feel more natural when I entered graduate school, but it was 2002 when I got my golden ticket, the opportunity to join family on a trip to California over the December break. I was so excited. I still remember standing in the book room of the high school where I had been teaching when my cousin called to make plans. He had friends in Beverly Hills and Santa Barbara. I had an invitation to join them over New Year's Eve. Did he even have to ask? Not even a blizzard on Christmas Day could contain my excitement as I approached JFK Airport. Mine was the last flight before a series of cancellations. And as I sat on the tarmac, watching the crew defrost the plane for that entire 5-hour delay, all I could think about was how successful this trip would be. People would find me so popular. I would be so engaging. My plan was to make my cousin's friends my friends. Finally, this longing for community and connection would see itself through. I wish I could tell you that I was the toast of the town and that I carry with me to this day the friendships and relationships that I made on that trip. But if I did, I'd be lying. The truth is, I fell flat. I didn't know what to say. I became mute. I froze. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. At the initial introduction, at the dinner, at the party, at the breakfast, basically, anywhere there was an opportunity to have a conversation with people who were not my relatives, I blew it. I was hard as stone, like a wall you couldn't break through. And as I stood there, watching everyone trade stories and making plans for the future, exchanging numbers, all I could think about was how not being able to express myself in a conversation was one of the loneliest feelings I had ever had, and I never wanted to feel that way again. I'm thankful I became a teacher, because it wasn't until I was required to help others learn to communicate that I could truly start to understand this mysterious art and science called conversation. My name is Maria DeVito. I've spent years watching people interact, and I want to share some basic truths that I've embraced that I think will make your life better. If relationships were as simple as showing up and having a positive attitude, then there would need to be a lot of explaining around why so many beautiful people have broken hearts. Yes, relationships involve proper position, right thinking, appearance. But what builds them and sustains them can only come about from the feelings created by great conversations. Conversations take practice, mutual interest, lots of give and take, and they're not easy. One of my favorite Netflix series, Cobra Kai, the two main characters, Johnny and Robbie, I have a picture of them right here. It's not until season 5 where these two, their father and son, they're finally able to communicate. Up until then, Robbie, jail, wayward friends, heartache, so much pain. He feels like his dad is a deadbeat. Well, they do come together. And you may not have a Robbie or a Johnny in your life, but maybe you want to develop a better relationship with that internship director. Maybe you want to smooth things over with your roommate. I want to invite you to think about some of the strategies that I want to share. Ask people questions about themselves. For people to truly grow into a space where they feel comfortable expressing themselves, interest and attention needs to be poured into them. One of my favorite characters, Tula, in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, she goes through so much. She sort of grows up in the background of her family. She's caught up with her parents' restaurant business, and she just spends a lot of time dealing with all of their problems. One day, Tula decides to get a job at a travel agency, and this man walks by the store window who becomes mesmerized by her. He loves learning about her culture. He asks her lots of questions. And it's through his interest and questions that Tula is able to finally grow into a place where she can share her beauty and intellect with the world. People want to share. What they really want is for their sharing to be wanted. Address people by their name. When I was in college, I had a residential assistant living on my floor who called everybody, "Hey, you." And in the beginning, I just figured, you know what, she's just kind of being sort of casual and trying to fit in. But after a while, I have to admit, it made me start to feel sort of unimportant, like she never noticed me. And people want a personal experience with you. When they hear you say their name, it's like they're hearing music. When you call people by their name, you are offering them just that, personal experience. Mirror back, paraphrase what was just said. Sometimes this is really easy to do. When you're talking to someone, let's say they said, "I grew up in Oklahoma." Okay, so you grew up in Oklahoma, tell me more. That's easy to paraphrase back in your own words. It's just a loose restatement of what was just said. A few years ago, I started taking on a lot more responsibilities in the family business, and I realized it's not as easy as just saying something back. You need to keep track of your conversations and the details so people know that what they say to you is not lost. My house. I keep Post-it notes and pens in every room because you never know. There might be a discussion or something where I have to reference it again. I'll go so far as to take pictures of my notes and email them to myself, text them to myself. I'll write the notes on the back of a receipt if I can't find a Post-it, on a piece of paper, even on the back of a toothpaste box. It's got to happen. Then, when we get to the meeting, I know when I'm going to meet with that person. They have a record. I'm able to mirror back, paraphrase what was just said. They feel so important. It's such a small act, but they realize, maybe they think I have this brilliant memory, and hopefully they see that I looked, so I can't take all the credit, but I'm organized and I'm on it, and they know I value them. Express praise, encouragement, gratitude. This is my favorite. I love that you were with me at that meeting. I'm so glad we could get this done. You look great today. I'm talking about feedback to people that's sincere and from the heart. That's me in the red when I'm 3. My mom's in the green, standing over me to the left. As early as I could push a pencil, my mom would handwrite these notes. We didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, so at that time, there wasn't such thing for us as a thank you note, but she made me write thank you letters to relatives who brought us gifts, who brought me gifts. And I remember thinking in the beginning, Mom, this is so much work. It's an even trade. We gave them food. They brought a gift. In that situation, they brought me a lunchbox. That should be enough. No, Mom didn't listen. She made me write the notes anyway. As I grew up, I found myself pouring my gratitude in my writing, and ultimately, the gift was mine because I felt better when I expressed the gratitude. Now as an adult, I write my notes just to let people know I love what they're doing. I'm thankful, yes, that's an obvious reason to write a note. Sometimes I'll go see a show and I realize that the director was someone who went to high school with me. I'll send them a note. I make it a regular practice. This is strictly a hobby. I love photography. I make my notes. I buy beautiful postage at the post office. I don't leave my house without my kit because if I have some downtime, guess what I'm doing? I'll write 5 notes a week because I want to stay connected. I love it. In this situation, I help run the family hotel in Connecticut. We had worked so hard trying to make a deal, and finally we came to terms. I wanted these people to know I'm so glad they chose us. Focus on what works well. This is a big one. I find a lot of times it's so easy to get caught up in the negativity of the day-to-day. How many times do you hear people say, wow, that person's so positive? I must admit, a lot of people think that I'm positive, but the truth is, I've had a lot of share of complaining. This is me, 1983. I'm 8 years old. It's my first trip to Greece. Most kids would be really grateful. That's when I started this series of complaints every time I go to the country, and I've traveled there so often. In this picture, I'm mad because it's 95 degrees and we had to travel up a hill to get to the top of the Acropolis. Ever since then, whenever I went on a trip to Greece, I found some small frustration that I would vent to my family about. It made our conversations miserable. I have to admit, I was a really negative person. There aren't enough roads in the countries. If you do drive on a road, you have to go through all these mountains. There aren't any barriers between the mountains and the streets. The list is endless. You'd be lucky to arrive at your house without a rock hitting your car. I could go on, but I'm not going to, because it wasn't until I heard these same complaints about the heat and climbing up a hill, when I brought my own children to the top of the Acropolis, that I saw what I was doing was wrong. I changed. I changed the conversation right there, and guess what? I may not have changed the 95-degree weather in the atmosphere, but I changed the weather and the people around me. I said, listen, girls, we're together. We're healthy. There's a sunset. We haven't been able to enjoy a walk together in years. Look what we're doing now. Sorry, it wasn't years. It was weeks that I hadn't taken before I had taken a walk. Look what we're doing now. Finally, the conversation's changed. And I bet you it's true. We haven't had a vacation like that in Greece since. We have to fill ourselves with gratitude. You might be listening to me tonight thinking, Maria, I do a lot of these things. And if you are one of these positive, good-natured people who focuses on the little things, I want to tell you this. Keep going. Do it. People notice. Even when they don't tell you, they notice. But if you're one of those people who maybe through no fault of your own, maybe you're really sarcastic, or you're caught up on focusing on what's not working, or you hold back on complimenting someone or giving praise, I want to invite you to reconsider, because how you show up in your relationships matters. It matters to you. It matters to me. It matters to the people around you. One day, because you changed, talking and listening, you might make $1 million, or you might just make someone that you care about feel less lonely. Thank you so much.